Welcome, listeners, to another episode of Panel Pals, the comic book podcast for thinkers. We're your hosts, Diane Hitchings.
And Jack Stewardson.
How are you doing today, Jack?
I'm good. I'm hot. It's hot.
Oh,
How
is
are
it
you?
finally summer? You finally have summer weather?
Finally summer in the prairies, yeah.
It's not like 12 and raining?
I mean, it was that last week, so today's actually kind of a nice reprieve, but
Oh, how nice.
yeah, it doesn't get colder, that's for sure.
Yeah. Oh, well, not to flex on y'all, but it's been like mid to low 20s for the past 2 weeks, and it's going to keep being like that for the foreseeable future. It's been sunny, it's been nice. I've gone to the lake.
I love that. Yeah.
been biking to work every morning. Yeah. Yeah. So really can't complain too much. For some reason though, today I woke up for work, opened my eyes, sat up, immediately got a splitting headache. I don't know what I did wrong. Maybe I got dehydrated, but the entire day today, even though I've drank a lot of water, I took Advil, I've just had a headache since I got up at 6:30 this morning.
That sucks.
But honestly, right now I'm feeling the best I've felt all day. Maybe it was for the prospect of going and talking for comics for a while. My body was like, yes, that's okay. We'll let you feel good now. And I'm like, thank you. So, not doctor's advice, not medical advice, but if you have a headache, I don't know, go talk about comics for 2 hours, then you'll feel good.
You know what? I'll say it here. Yes, doctor's advice. I don't care. I don't care if it's misinformation. Talking about comics will fix your headache.
Yeah. We have empirical evidence. We have one case, at least.
Two podcast hosts can't be wrong about the same thing at the same time.
No, never. Especially two idiots talking about comics. They could never give medical advice that isn't accurate or scientific. No. So anyway, let's talk about what we're actually good at talking about. Comics. Woohoo. Today we will be talking about the Colors Trilogy, which is 3 volumes of a Korean manhwa.
Sorry, not to be confused with the Polish films of the same name, the Colors Trilogy.
Yeah, that kept coming up when I was doing research, and I'm like, can you get out of my way, please? Did you know that those films existed before this?
Yeah, I only knew about the films. I had not heard about this before.
When I gave this to you, were you like, wait, what the fuck is this, a manhwa rendition of the films?
No, it was pretty apparent that they have nothing to do with each other. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Before I get into my blurb, I have a couple questions for you, Jack. You are a boy, correct?
Last I checked, yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever written female characters in your comics or anything else that you write?
Oh, yeah.
And with that, do you have trouble writing women?
Oh, yeah.
Do you find yourself shying away from writing women? Tell me about your experience.
I wouldn't say I necessarily shy away from writing women. I think any writer, if you avoid writing women, that's sad and pathetic for one thing. Sorry, hot take. But, I am conscious of I make mistakes in my writing about writing anyone. And I am conscious of writing women as it's not my strong suit for sure. That being said, I like girls. I'm a big girl enjoyer over here.
Mm-hmm. When you write women, are there certain parts of it that you find most difficult while creating the character, visually or character-wise, or anything about writing their story? Do you find anything in specific difficult?
I mean, certainly learning to draw women was an uphill climb. My background was drawing super jocks and monsters, so learning to draw the female form and then learning to draw different female forms, that is tricky for me. I'll admit that. Mm-hmm. Characterization wise, I don't necessarily have trouble writing characters. I am always trying to be conscious of when I'm writing a romantic relationship between a female character and a male character, because it's really easy to get into tropey archetypes, and I fall into that all the time, and that's a problem I recognize. But I don't know. I'm willing to recognize a good female character whenever they pop up in literature when I'm reading as a critic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Nice. Is there any part about writing women that you think is easy, or just comes more naturally than other parts?
I love writing flirty back and forth dialogue. So like that's and that's also, I was raised on that kind of pop literature. So writing that comes naturally to me.
Mm-hmm.
I also recognize that that's not necessarily realistic in every scenario. So it's like learning when to back off of that was also kind of a learning curve. But, whenever I can sneak that in, I love doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then last question before I get into my intro. What is the target demographic for the comic we read this week?
Oh, this is like young women's coming of age. Am I right about that?
So, like, you think like the Korean equivalent of like shoujo?
I wouldn't say shoujo. I was leaning more towards like classic literature, like Little Women or Anne of Green Gables or like Portrait of a Young Artist, that kind of stuff.
Like YA more so.
Yeah, like before YA was a term, was a marketing term. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. But like the preteen demographic, I guess. Maybe teenagers.
Teenage, I would say.
Teen. Yeah.
That's certainly what the subject matter leans towards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. This is one of the series that when I was reading, I'm just like, who the hell is this for? But we'll get into that later. Anyways, intro time. The Colors Trilogy is a manhwa written and illustrated by Kim Dong-hwa, originally published in Korean from 1992 to 1995, with the original title as The Story of Life on the Golden Fields. The comic was subsequently published in multiple languages, with the English version being published in 2009 as 3 volumes, under the name The Color of Earth, The Color of Water, and The Color of Heaven. Apparently, the story was inspired by Kim's mother's life, as in when his mom was aging, he was like, once upon a time she was probably a beautiful woman, huh? So he did some research into her early life, and this series is a loose retelling of some of his mother's stories from her youth. It's a highly acclaimed series, with excellent reviews in the literary world, and interestingly, it's on the US list of the top 100 books most frequently attempted to be banned during the 2010s, even coming in second in 2011. Citing reasons of nudity, sex education, being sexually explicit, and being unsuited for the age group. As in, it's advertised as a YA book. So, sort of like shoujo manga, but shoujo being for Japanese manga, and this is a Korean manhwa. And as such, it was seen as inappropriate for kids of that demographic. As the blurb on the book says, the Colors Trilogy is a, quote, at once a daring tale of sexual awakening and a tender story about a mother and daughter, end quote. The story follows HWA from the age of 7, when she makes her first discovery about sexuality, to when she's married at 17. Over the years, she experiences love, puberty, and learns about what society expects from a woman. At the same time, the comic follows HWA's mother, an unnamed widow running a tavern, and her experience with aging, raising a daughter, and falling in love after the death of her husband. The manhwa uses a lot of flowery visuals and written metaphors, mostly revolving around women as flowers and men as butterflies, and the series focuses on themes of womanhood, beauty, love, and sexuality. For the majority of the time since I first read this manhwa, I was kind of under the impression it was written by a woman. You know, main characters are women, seems to be in a vaguely shoujo genre, it's got the soft art style. But yeah, this time around, when I read it, I looked at the author, and no, it's a guy. Okay, so that does make a lot of sense when you're reading it, and like, yeah, it's totally not how a woman would write women, but let's be real, I didn't read all the words when I was 12 reading this for the first time, so I didn't pick up on any of that. Now, that's one of the more interesting things about this series to me. What do you mean it's written by a guy? What do you mean the series following the puberty of a girl is written by a guy, and is framed in the most flowery, romanticized, aestheticized way? I by no means am saying that stories about women, with women main characters, can't be written by men. More men and non-female people should write stories about women. Hell, even more women should write stories about women. But I am saying, dear Lord, please do it right. Unfortunately, it seems that a lot of men do not know how to write women characters, or don't know how to write compelling, strong, independent women characters that have character arcs, like their male counterparts. There's lots of reasons for this. First of all, patriarchy. Sorry, it's kind of going to be one of those kinds of episodes. Media in general centers a male perspective, making female characters the love interest and rarely anything else. Let's take my last Diane-led episode, for example, where we talked about Toriko, a shonen series, where the most important female character was Rin, a character whose whole shtick was being in love with the main character, and then she gets to marry him, despite him seemingly having no interest in her. And yes, it's a series for young boys, it's shonen, but why can't boys read stories about girls? Oh, they wouldn't be interested in a story about a girl because they're boys, right? No. Is there anything inherently different about a girl that makes them uninteresting as a main character and uninteresting for boys? No. It's simply that society, and the media that it inspires, pushes a narrative that girls are not as cool and interesting and strong and adventurous as boys. And we do not have time to get into the whole hegemonic masculinity of it all, because we have comics to talk about, so I digress. Writing women is not hard, it's only that society as a whole doesn't have enough experience at it. And the Colors Trilogy is an excellent example of that. So, let us talk about this series. What do you think about the thing? Yeah.
I liked it a lot. I really liked this one, I have to say.
You really liked it? Interesting. Yeah. Huh. Yeah. Going into it, I was like, all I could think was, oh man, Jack's gonna hate the fact that there's no backgrounds.
No, there's background. There's some beautifully rendered landscapes. Usually, between chapters, but they're there. There's some animals in there. I was shocked to see some like bison and like cattle and stuff drawn very wonderfully. I don't know. There's a lot to like about this visually.
Nice. Yeah. So you really like the series? I wasn't really expecting that.
I mean,
but then again,
I like shoujo.
You like shoujo.
So, and this is like pretty shoujo coded. Yeah.
Oh, quite shoujo. Like, in one of the insides of, so we read a scanned version of the English physical copies for this. And inside one of the books, it says specifically that it is like in the shoujo genre. That's what this is supposed to be. And I'm like, fair enough. The first time I read this, I was in the shoujo demographic, and I enjoyed it. Big fun fact for you. I know this is not a manga, it's a manhwa, but like you get what I mean when I say this was the first manga I ever read.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. In the vein of I never read things in a coherent order. My sister and I, we got the first book of this out of the public library, I think at like the tail end of elementary school, and then we got the subsequent books. So yeah, first manga I read, and then I read like one volume of Yotsuba, and then I read Death Note. And does that make sense? Nope!
No, it totally makes sense.
But yeah, anyways, tell me more about what you like about this.
I'll start, as usual, we'll start with the formal elements, and I mean, art-wise, this is beautiful use of ligne claire, clean line art. Everybody looks very pretty, so it makes it very readable. When most people look very pretty, so it's pretty readable.
Yes.
Donghua, I believe that's his last name, the author's last name, does differentiate like some of the secondary characters or background characters. They get a little goofier, cartoony, but the main cast, Ewa and her mother, are like, they're just beautiful. They're beautiful women to look at in the book. So like, and he's able to draw them and their different emotions in very subtle, interesting ways. Yeah, no, I love how this reads. I love how it looks.
Yeah, I do really like how it's drawn. Like the characters are drawn pretty differently from a lot of series that I've read before. Like most manhwa and I've read does not look like this, probably because I didn't read a lot of like shoujo type stuff. But like I think the characters are drawn very interestingly. I like their little petite mouths and their little petite noses, and their pretty eyes. It really gets across that they're pretty people.
Yes.
Yeah, big fan of it.
I like how they're flat. Also, like this is it's a comic. They're flat. It works. The style works for the medium that it's using.
Yeah, like there's not a lot of like detail on the characters, not a lot of shading. There's a lot more detail and shading in all the backgrounds, which is like pretty standard for most manga and manhwa. I think it works really well. I like how the backgrounds are detailed, and you can really feel the setting. You can feel what this, like, small rural village in, like, I think it's supposed to be set in, like, the first half of the 1900s. It's never really specific about it.
Yeah, it's kind of vague.
Like, there's trains, and we also see power lines at one point, so it's not super duper old, but also, like, there's no electricity in these houses for the most part. Yeah. Yeah, so you really feel that setting. It's great. There's only a couple times where I think, like, the dichotomy between, like, the simplified characters and the detailed background don't work. Specifically, there is, in chapter 23, there's a 2-page spread of Awa and her friend Bongsoon walking, and they're drawn like they are for the rest of the comic, very simplified, flat shading. And, like, the background is detailed, like it's been the whole time. Detailed. But there is also just a hyper-detailed, realistic guy on a cart driven, like, by a cow in the foreground, and he's drawn in a completely different style than they are, and it looks so funny to me.
I kind of love that. I kind of love that spread.
It's so funny to me because I'm like, there's not even any shadow on the ground underneath him and his cart. So it feels so superimposed. And I'm just like, wait, what was the choice? Because all the other characters, even like the male farmer characters and the rest of the story, are drawn in a similar way to, like, Awa and Bongsoon in that picture. It's simplified, stylized. But then there's just random one instance of, like, a realistic guy drawn. I'm like, why? It just took me out of it so much. I couldn't stop laughing looking at that spread.
Occasionally, specifically in the backgrounds, I'm going to screw up this guy's name all the time. I feel bad. Donghua is, like, hyper detailed. Have you ever read or have you ever seen the art of, his name is Michael Zulli?
I'll look him up real quick. Let me see.
He's a Canadian cartoonist, but all of his comics sort of center around the natural world, and they're, like, hyper detailed, hyper hatched and cross hatched, and it kind of reminds me of that when he's going into the backgrounds. Mm-hmm. But then all these foreground figures, like we've mentioned, they're like beautiful cartoons. Like, mm-hmm. I don't know. I like that juxtaposition a lot. I think it looks great.
Yeah, and I think it works really well for comic storytelling because you get the sense of place from the backgrounds, but then the simplified characters, easier to make simplified dramatic expressions, and also the more simple the characters, the easier it is as the audience to superimpose yourself onto them, blah blah blah, you know how it is. So I think that works great. I like it. I really expected you to like it less because there were so many places where there's no backgrounds and it's just like a white panel with a character in it. Because you complain about that so much in the Wish episode.
I do complain about it a lot. I'm willing to forgive it here. There's enough. There's enough going on here.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned a little bit earlier about how, like, the characters are, like, they're beautiful looking. Which, yes, agreed. The main characters are two protagonists, Awa and her mother, who just does not have a name. Thank you. They're drawn very beautifully. One of the problems I have with this is the implied morality of beauty in this thing. I did mention this a little bit when we talked about Family Compo, that when you have, like, characters who are beautiful and they're always put in the position of being the right people, and it comes across as, like, making them morally superior by virtue of their beauty. So, like, in this series, Awa and her mom are beautiful. They're the protagonists of the book, and they're positioned as the moral arbitrators of this series. And then there's also Duksam, who is Awa's eventual husband. He's referred to as big, strong, and good-looking. We have the rich kid that Awa gets a crush on in the first book, Sunwoo. He is also said to be very handsome. Don't think it's a coincidence that he's also rich. There's a couple other female characters who are depicted as pretty, like there's this one girl who has to get married to a 9-year-old, and it's depicted as so tragic because she's this beautiful young lady and she's put in this very unfortunate situation. No pretty person in this series does any, like, quote-unquote bad things in the eyes of this story. Even Duksam, who destroys his master's things because he's angry, that's depicted as a just thing for him to do when he just wantonly destroys someone's property and has to run away because they're legitimately going to kill him for it. Meanwhile, we have old and ugly characters. For example, Bong Soon, Awa's friend, is depicted as much less attractive than Awa. She has an up-turned nose, thin eyes, kind of like bushy eyebrows, messy hair, and she's more rude and annoying and sexually promiscuous. She's all the things that a young woman shouldn't be, an antithesis to Awa's beauty and her naivety and her chasteness. And then there's also a lot of the quote-unquote old characters who were depicted as less good than our protagonists. You have the two middle-aged guys at the tavern who are always making crass remarks. They are depicted as looking visibly old and not attractive, though you can kind of guess that they're approximately the same age as Awa's mother, maybe a little bit older. Then we have, like, you could call the main antagonist of the series, Master Cho, who is Duxam's employer. He's this old guy who's like 70 or something, and he's trying to marry Awa when she's like 15. Obviously, he's depicted as a bad guy. And the shaman woman that works together with him, also depicted as old and unattractive. So, kind of what I don't like about the series is that it's really seeming to push the message, obviously unintentionally, I think, that pretty people good, old ugly people bad. And when you have a story about women, it just really rubs me the wrong way because it's really pushing that narrative we have in society so much that a woman only has value when she is young and attractive. If she's not pretty and she's old, get her out of here. We don't want to look at her. This is really evident in like the film industry where women literally can't age.
Right.
No, you have to.
We don't cast women of a certain age, and then like as soon as a woman in Hollywood basically hits 35, they're stuck playing like someone in middle age, regardless of how they look.
Yeah. And even like old people, quote unquote, like old characters in movies. No, they still glammed up in makeup. They have like the bare necessity of the wrinkles to make them obviously more than like 20 years old. Still got their hair done, still got makeup, unless of course they're like supposed to be creepy or like bad. Then they can be ugly.
Right.
Which, like, okay, on one hand, yes, we all like looking at pretty things. But when you start having things where it seems to villainize being unattractive or old, that's when it kind of gets into a problem. And I think that this series unintentionally falls into that. What do you think?
I don't disagree. I think one of my major complaints about this, and I don't know, maybe we'll talk, never mind, I'll save that for later. But I don't disagree. I think, aside from Awa and her mom and their prospective romantic partners, kind of everybody else is kind of depicted in like scrangly, cartoony vibes, and I don't necessarily agree with that all of their morality is different. Like, I think Awa's friend,
Bong Soon.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think she's a bad character. Like, no. I think she's there to contrast Awa's naivety, in addition to being more sexually promiscuous than Awa. But, like, it's a give and a take. I don't necessarily think that she's vilified at all just because she's more sexually promiscuous or because she has more frizzly hair than Awa. And even Awa and her mother, like, part of the charm of those characters, at least in my head, is they have a loose strand of hair coming from their bun, and it's always kind of moving or wisping around. That's part of what makes them attractive to me as characters. That's that's like human.
100%. I love drawing characters with those little loose hairs. I think it's great. It gives them character. It makes them like less perfect, blah blah blah. And I don't think like Bong Soon is outright vilified, but it's not like by accident that she is much less attractive than Awa. And even if it's not done on purpose to make her seem less, quote unquote, good of a woman or good of a girl as Awa is, if it wasn't done on purpose, then that's almost worse, because then you just have Kim Dong-hwa perpetuating that idea that beauty on the outside shows that there's beauty on the inside.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I see what you're getting at.
Yeah, and like, I don't think it was done on purpose. It's just like, hey, we're supposed to read into things on this series.
Yes.
Yeah, we're supposed to critically analyze things. Why are the curtains blue? But, like, yeah, so that's what comes across to me reading this critically. And, it happens a lot. Oftentimes, pretty people are depicted as being good. And a lot of people in society itself pushes this narrative as well. Oh, someone's pretty? You can trust them. Someone's ugly and old? Probably not. You wouldn't want to buy a product for them, right? Yeah, no.
Yeah. I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
All of Batman's villains are horribly disfigured, scarred, and therefore they're evil. Yeah. That's like all of Western literature almost.
Mm-hmm. And like, it's easy shorthand, I guess. Because again, people like looking at things that are pretty. So if you're like, yes, it's easy to convey who is the bad guy and who is good guy in story if one of them is beautiful and the other one is, like, ugly as shit. Because you're just gonna naturally be like, yes, the pretty person. I trust them. They're the good one. But anyways, anything else you want to say about the art of the story?
I like that it's set. Part of the reason why I align this with like a Little Women or a Anne of Green Gables is the setting, is the rural setting. And we've said it a bunch of times. It looks beautiful. It looks authentic. It feels authentic. It reads as very homey and comfortable. And it's drawn in different phases as like part of the metaphor of Eywa growing up is like the seasons change as you continue to read through the narrative, right?
Yeah. Which, yeah, very fun.
It's very fun. It's good.
Yeah. On that note, with seasons changing and all that, let's talk about flowers a little bit. One of the main through lines of this series, or I guess you could say like themes of the series, is flowers. Bro, they talk about flowers all the time. Every chapter is like, yes, a woman is like insert flower because of insert vague random reason. If I were to describe this series, it would be flowery, both in the way that it's drawn and the way that, like, the prose is written. It's poetic, almost. There's times where, like, the narration seems almost like it's a poem. Which is fine. I guess. I'm not a big poetry person.
I was gonna say, that's part of its charm, is like everything is a metaphor, and it's all like, it's all nature based. Everything is a type of plant or an insect, and that's like there's some charm to that. My concern is, because we're reading this translated, like some of it is maybe a little heavy handed, I feel sometimes, and it's like, well, that's probably the translator like trying to describe like certain plants that us Westerners, we just don't have in our ecology or our lexicon, right? Like, and that can be clunky. Sometimes it's not. So often I find that the metaphors work, but every once in a while, like the opening one is, it's comparing a boy's genitals with a type of hot pepper, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I guess, sure. And then they're like constantly feeding home that like the peppers have seeds and such, and like that's how babies come from. And it's like, okay, now I get it. But it takes you a while to get it, like, which I guess would work if you're a kid reading this, sure. But like, I don't know. I'm a grown man. I'm sure you could have come up with a better metaphor if you were like not trying to directly translate the work.
Yeah. I kind of got the impression that like it was a pretty faithful translation. I don't think much got changed, especially because there are like little footnotes on pages that are explaining some of like the specifically Korean things that we might not get as a Western audience. I really just think it was written that flowery and obtuse in the original. I think he's like kind of like a poet, man. I think that's just how it is.
Looking at his author picture, I don't disagree.
Yeah, I know, right? Like the book starts with like a poem or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, cool. I'm not reading this.
Again, the poetic mechanic that we're describing, I had to look this up, so don't quote, don't like, Oh, Jack, you're so smart. I didn't remember this. It's called mimesis, where you're always referring back to nature, to the natural world. Mm-hmm. That also aligns it with like Little Women and like Anne of Green Gables and stuff. Again, it's that like the idea of being a kid and the innocence of youth. It is like natural, but eventually you age into it. You become civilized. You become a grown up, and like there is like this sort of push and pull dynamic between Awa and her mother trying to come to terms with like finding a new love and like falling back into like this kind of innocence, and Awa growing out of this innocence. It's I don't know. I find it charming. I think it's like it's an interesting character dynamic to have. I don't know how realistic it is. Like, and Diane, you don't have to go into detail in this, but as a woman, how do you feel about, like, do these characters feel authentic to you at all?
No. Dude, I have a list here of quotes, mostly from Awa's mom, that are like things that make me want to put my head through a wall. Just about like, okay, so main problem, I will say I like the dynamic between Awa and her mom. I think it's really sweet. I like how open they are with each other. I like how much they trust each other. I like how much they help each other. I like how much they're like when Awa's mom gets her new boyfriend, Awa isn't all like, oh, you're replacing dad, blah, blah, blah. She's like, I'm happy my mom is happy, and I'm, like, specifically gonna give them space. Like, she is like, I'm gonna go sleep over at Bong Soon's house so that you can, like, hang out with your man. I think that's really nice. And on the flip side, Awa's mom really trusts her with her picking a husband and who she wants to be in a relationship with. She's not, she is a little bit angry when Awa does things that are kind of dangerous, but when she eventually brings Duksam home, she's like, bring him inside, have a meal as a family, and like Awa and Duksam are so happy about it. It's cute. I really like that part of it. Parts that I don't like. I found a review for this book. Fun fact, I don't know if it's because this is, like, a relatively, like, older series, or it's kind of more literary than it is, like, you know. I found, like, the only place I could really find, like, reviews about this was on Goodreads, which is very funny to me. So I went and read a bunch of Goodreads reviews, and one of them made a comment about how it's a comic about women, but it doesn't pass the Bechdel test. Which is, like, legit. You have a comic where the main two characters are women. First of all, one of them doesn't have a name. I think part of the Bechdel test is that the characters have to be named. Correct. So, like, get fucked right away. Because Ava's mom is never given a name. Literally, I don't know if it's just the translation or whatever, but even right off the bat, like, people describe her as Ava's mom, the widower who has the tavern.
The tavern keeper, yeah.
Yeah. So, cool, thanks. So empowering. And they literally only ever talk about men growing up so that you can be attractive to men, and flowers, because woman is flower, and man is butterfly. There's literally a scene where Ava's mom is like, okay, so I'll like teach you how to like do shit or something, whatever, and Ava's like trying to get the fire to like boil some water or whatever, and her mom's like, what are you doing, just shoving a shit ton of like logs in there? That's not how you make a fire. Goodness, how are you ever gonna get married if you don't even know how to make a fire? And then she like kind of teaches Awa how to make a fire, and then she's like, oh crap, do I have the quote here? Yeah. And then while she's, like, making the fire, she's like, yes, a man is like a fire, so a woman has to know how to properly stoke the fire. And I'm like, girl, like, have a personality.
This is followed immediately by Awa learning how to do dishes, and her mother scolding her for being too loud, and while she does it. Yeah, I don't disagree.
Yeah, and so many things. Here, I'll read a couple of the quotes that, again, made me want to put my head through a wall. Chapter 7. Awa's mom says, mothers teach their daughters the simple truth that a lovely body will be admired. Great job instilling in your daughter the idea that be pretty so people will like you. Thank you. Chapter 15. This is following some kind of talk about a metaphor of women being flowers, men being butterflies. Flowers bloom when a man and woman unite. Two women could never make a flower bloom on their own. First of all, homophobic. How rude. Second of all, it's like implying that, like, oh, because we're two women living with each other, we can never really truly be happy. We need man. And you're like, cool, awesome. Great thing to teach your daughter. What? Chapter 19. Why do we live? This is the picture man that Awa's mom's boyfriend pretty much says, why do we live? Then Awa's mom says, to eat, sleep, and to wait. Most of the story she has spent waiting for her man to return. And then, of course, the man is able to say, no, there's more than that in life. Great. Love that. Women can only wait. Men can be like, ah, yes, there's more in life than that. Chapter 20, after the fire talk that we talked about earlier, Awa's mom says, why does a woman pretty herself? It's to show one person. Would be super cool if she was talking about that one person being yourself. Nah, she's talking about that one man you want. Awesome. Chapter 30. Literally the entire comic ends with Awa's mom being like, I think it's a woman's fate to always be waiting. Girl! So anyways, one of my main problems with this is, it is so obvious upon hindsight this is just written by a dude who's just romanticizing women.
Yeah.
They aren't characters.
Yeah. I wouldn't go that far. I think they're characters.
Yeah, they are, but like, their entire character is the way that they relate to men, which is kind of impressive for both your main characters being women and their entire characters being pretty much related to how they relate to men. Yes, they relate to each other, but when they talk to each other, the only thing they ever talk about is, hey, Awa, here's how you become a good woman for your husband. Then it kind of just, like, defeats the purpose. They, like, go and do laundry, and yeah, it's nice. Awa's mom talks about, like, oh, I remember doing this when your father was still alive, which is nice. In by itself, that scene is really nice. Oh, look, they're talking about her deceased husband and Awa's deceased father. Nice. But when it's like in the whole series, when literally every conversation ever is about a man, it's like, please just talk about yourselves and not how it relates to being hot.
Now, not that this solves our problem with the book, but could it be that because it is set in a certain time, in a certain region of Korea, like,
yes,
this makes it more authentic as a piece of work? Like, granted, yes. I have no idea, but like, I imagine that life for women in Korea, in rural areas in Korea, probably it is a lot of waiting to get married, and there are life lessons involved with, like, how to properly find a suitor. Like, again, not that makes for great literature, but probably not inauthentic, and in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I think it is. None of the women in this series are given the opportunity to be anything other than a daughter and then a wife and then a mother. They don't go to school. Most of what they do is shown as preparation for what they're going to do later in life, as a wife and as a mother. And I think that is realistic to the time. There wasn't a lot of opportunity, you know? In the West, same sort of thing. Back in the day, bro, you can't even work. And then they invented World Wars, and then women could work. Yay. But even, like, and that's true, yes. But the problem is that this series depicts these things uncritically. It depicts them as a fact of life, but it doesn't say anything about them. And so if you were reading this uncritically and you took it all at face value, then you'd be like, ah, yes, this is how it is. Ain't nothing wrong with that. You can say, oh, well, obviously the author knew that these things aren't good, and I disagree with the way that women had to live in the past, so this series must also be not, saying it's a great thing. But no part of the series really says that. Everything that happens in Awa's life depicted in this story is being like, yes, waiting for your man and then getting married is what you should strive for. And she gets that and she's happy, which isn't a bad thing. If that's what you want in life, good. But she's never given another option. And so you could take it. Like, even though that's not what it is, you could literally take this as propaganda that that's what women should do. That's not what I think the point of the story is saying, but the fact that you could read it as that means that it's not really doing anything to say, oh, this is bad. You read this and was like, oh, this is probably what it's saying, but it's not saying it's a good thing. It's probably saying it's bad. That's probably because you have the belief that giving women no option is not a good thing.
Yeah, women should probably have agency.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I'd say probably a good idea. If any part of this was actually critical of it, then I would think differently. But you can't just depict something at how it was and be like, well, times are different, so obviously it's not a good thing. You kind of have to also put that in your story. You can't just, like, defend yourself as, obviously it's not a good thing, because things are different now. But I don't think Mr. King Donghua was trying to be super critical. He just wanted to depict a nice little story.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, even in, like, part of me when I was reading it was like, oh, that's actually kind of interesting that HWA has three different romantic, semi-romantic relationships in her young life. The problem with that being she has no agency in when they end, right? Like, they all kind of end either due to certain happenstance or because of, like, them being male in a certain position, right? Like, her first relationship ends because the boy is training to be a monk, and when you're a monk, you're supposed to be chaste. Her second relationships end because the young master is going back to the big city, right? Like, she doesn't break up with them or decide that, oh, maybe it's not wise to be dating at this age, or like, I'm not ready, or anything like that. They just kind of disappear from her life. And she's like, kind of heartbroken, but then she picks herself up again.
Yeah. And I will go one step even further and say that not only did she not have a choice when they ended, but she didn't even have a choice for them to begin. When she meets the monk, he's already training to be a monk. It is implied that he cannot have any relationships with, like, a woman. He can't get married. This is already a fact when they meet each other. When she meets the young master Sunwoo when he's home because he broke his arm, it says, oh, he's got, like, he's really handsome, and he was going to school, and he's got, like, pale skin, because, you know, he doesn't have to do labor outside.
Yeah.
He's got pale skin, you know. It is, like, implied that she's never going to be able to have a relationship with him. He's only here temporarily. B, he's rich. So, even though it is implied at other times in the stories that, hey, HWA is so pretty that she could probably just get any man she wants, as in that 70-year-old dude is super rich and was willing to literally give gold, silver, and land to get her. So, like, it's implied that she could marry someone outside of her station, someone of a higher class or status than her, when it's, you know, the story's talking about her and the young master Sunwoo. It's never implied that it's reasonable that she would ever have a relationship with him. On one hand, it's because blah, 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 they're young, it's just like random crush, fair enough. But I find it interesting, it doesn't even imply that, oh, she could get him because she's pretty. And that's implied later on in the story. So, to me, it's like these two first relationships, or these two first crushes, she has no agency at all with them. Like, she's literally given these people to have a crush on that she has a 0% chance of being with. So it's like, almost like, what's the point? Is it just so the futility of being a woman? Or, also, the futility of being a monk. I feel bad for him. Bro had a crush and he was told, hey, you know what? That's pretty cringe. You hit puberty? Shit, dude, that's not good. It's like, makes it like, how did this kid was like probably about the same age as HWA, and they met when she was about like 9, I think. Rip to him. I don't know how you become like an apprentice monk or whatever, but it seems like he didn't really get a choice either. You can't expect a 9-year-old to know if he wants to be celibate for the rest of his life. He doesn't even know what that means.
True.
I feel bad for most of the people in this time and place. But yeah, no, sucks that she doesn't really get a choice in her relationships until she gets her actual relationship, which we want to talk about her actual relationship.
Sure.
What do you think?
I mean,
how do you think it's depicted?
I think it would be way more boring if there wasn't the element of tragedy, quote unquote tragedy, of him having to skip town because he destroyed his master's house, right? Like,
yeah,
there is something about, as a straight guy, there is something about a woman waiting patiently and longing for you that is like, oh, that is, it feels like it's sad, but it's also nice. Like a nice idea.
Well,
I understand that's problematic.
Desired?
I'm sorry. I will, yeah.
I mean, it's not like people have long distance relationships. That's how, especially nowadays, that's totally viable and it happens.
Yeah, you're telling me.
What? Yeah. Whatever. What's the saying? Distance makes the heart grow fonder.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, like, I don't inherently have a problem with that. I do inherently kind of have a problem with, during that whole time he's away, A was all like,
it's all she can think about, yeah.
Which, like, okay, that's not even the problem I have. Like, there's this one point where, so, Duke Sam goes to the coast to work as a fisherman. He doesn't have anything to write with or anything on the boat, so he gets a guy to relay a message to Awa, verbally. And, like, in this message, he says something about, like, oh, when I look at the full moon or something, I think of you. And instead of Awa being like, oh my god, that's so sweet, she's like, when I look at the moon every day, I think of him. What do you mean you only think of me once a month? I'm like, girl, shut up! It's like, that kind of thing's annoying. But, like, why would a guy write that? Maybe because I'm like, I might think like, oh, as a guy writing that, you'd be like, yes, my girl pines for me so much. She pines for me at all times while I go out there and toil away to work hard. Which, like, it's wish fulfillment. I think it's wish fulfillment, which is a little weird when the series is vaguely based on the life of your mother. Why are you writing it so wish fulfillment-y? Weird, but I digress. I don't inherently hate the relationship. I think it's kind of cute. I like they like banter and like it's never shown that she's like can't keep up with his wit or anything.
I like that they don't like each other. Well, Awa doesn't initially. She doesn't know what to think of him initially. Yeah. Like she recognizes that he's big and strong and handsome, but also like he is braggadocious and like cocky, and that kind of like it flusters her. She doesn't know if that turns her on or not, and that's like. That is kind of interesting. It's almost nuanced. But inevitably they fall in love. And there's no question in his mind that like this is the girl for him because she's so soft and dainty and all of this.
And he thinks she's pretty. Is it kind of weird and questionable that the first time they meet he kind of like barges in on her when she's bathing? And then makes a little sassy quip of, hey, anytime you want anyone else to wash your hair, let me know. I'll take a look at your pretty neck and breasts anytime. Girl, this is like a 15-year-old.
Yeah, but girls like confidence. You gotta remember.
Yeah. So, like, that's a little weird. I don't disagree. And then he accidentally walks in on her mom bathing too. Okay. Weirdo. Yeah. But, like, I think their relationship's pretty cute. It's fine. I don't dislike it. Yeah, obviously they get married, whatever. I think it's cool that he builds the house for them. That's pretty neat.
That's pretty cool. Again, that's the setting, though, right? Like, it's this time and place where you could just do that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All I have to think about is, like, wow. To have the ability to just go and build a house to live in. My soft little 21st century hands could never. Also, I am woman. Oh no, I could never build that.
No,
house.
you wouldn't be allowed. You wouldn't be allowed to. Let's be real.
I have to sit there and wait as my to-be husband makes the house, and my mom makes all my bedding for me and buys all my furniture, so that I can get married.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
So earlier in your intro, you mentioned that this is often on a list of banned books, which suggests to me, and well. This also suggests to me, because in the backs of these volumes, there are reader response questions for you to consider and discuss. Do you see an educational value in this? Do you see why this would be banned? Is it rightfully worth banning? I mean, obviously, nothing's worth banning, but like, could you see why this could get banned? Should this be banned? Again, obviously no, but like, why?
Do I see why this would be banned? Yes. Oh no, it talks about sex. Oh, gasp, our soft little minds cannot let this exist. Oh, in the zeitgeist. Oh no. A bare titty? Implied sex?
Periods? Uh-oh.
Periods? Uh-oh. Puberty? Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Guy has a wet dream? Uh-oh.
Nocturnal emissions? Uh-oh.
So I can understand why people won't ban it. Dumbass reasons to ban it. Stupid. As for educational, is this educational as in introducing, like, Western readers to what Eastern comics could be? Yes. Can it also introduce just people in general to what comics can do for storytelling? Yes. Educational for vaguely what life was like in vaguely pre-industrial Korea, or whatever time this is supposed to be? Yes. Is this educational in any way to how a girl should assume puberty and life as a woman should be? Fuck no.
You don't think that there's value in depicting, like, in Anne Frank, people ban Anne Frank because in the book, Anne Frank, I think she has a period, but I think she also has, like, she briefly mentions that she wouldn't mind dating a girl at one point in the book. And, like, that's wrong, right? Like, first off, this was a real person, and all this other stuff happens in the book, right? Like,
the context of you saying she briefly thinks about dating a woman, which is wrong, out of context, hilarious sentence. I know what you mean.
Yes. It's wrong to ban books because of that reason.
Yeah.
Do you think that the depiction of coming of age in kind of, I was going to say blunt. No, it's very flowery and it's very over the top. But like using young characters, you don't see value in that?
Oh, no, of course I do. But here's the thing. If for any reason you would want to use this as an educational aid for a young girl to know what puberty or growing up is, no. Because they're going to have the weirdest fucking idea of what that means. I'm going to say, imagine, put yourself in the shoes of like a 10-year-old girl. Imagine your only aid, if your only aid for going through puberty was this book, you'd be like, oh, cool. I'm going to get my period and now I'm a woman.
Then I will get married.
Yeah, she has discomfort before. I find this a lot in series about, this is not the only like comic I've read where a female main character has her period for the first time. She thinks she's gonna die. An older character is like explains what it is. Congrats, you're a woman, and then it's never relevant to the story again. That's not how periods work. Periods come and fuck up your life once a month until you figure out how to deal with it. Which, fun fact, either you don't figure out how to deal with it, or you just go on birth control. And then, woo! Now I don't have to care about it way less. So that's not good. The fact that it's such flowery language makes it extremely difficult, especially as a young person, to know what the fuck they are talking about. If you are like say in the first chapter, they refer to like male genitals as like kind of like a pepper. It's vaguely the same shape.
Yeah, I don't know about that one, Chief.
Help. That one doesn't help. Later on, it's like, oh, Ava's mom is like, oh yeah, no, we don't have that as women. We have a door the baby comes out of. And it was like, what? I don't know where that is. And she's like, don't worry. You'll discover it when you're older. First of all, that quote-unquote door, it still exists when you're little. It doesn't just magically appear when you grow up. It's just, you can't have baby at that point.
Right.
You still got the anatomy, it just isn't. So, like, that wouldn't help. Imagine you read that and you're like, ah, yes, good to know. I don't have the baby door until I'm an adult. Nope, not how it works. They're like, oh yes, women have a persimmon seed. You think any young girl knows what the fuck they're talking about when they talk about that? No. Oh, don't worry, you can't find it now, but when you get married, the man will be able to find it quite easily. Okay. Okay.
Sure. Yes.
Great advice.
100% every time. Yes.
Yeah. So no, I don't think this is a good educational aid for going through puberty for women at all. It is far too romanticized, far too aestheticized, or however you pronounce that word. Far too flowery to make sense in any way like that. It can be, it would be fine to work as like auxiliary information, aka like give your kid the puberty books but also let them read this. Sure.
Yeah.
As a grown-up person reading this, like for reference, I first read this at the tail end of elementary school, so like vaguely in that going through puberty time. At that point in time, we started sex ed in grade 4, so I already knew what this shit was. I knew what a fallopian tube was, don't worry. I knew more than AWA literally ever knows. So this didn't confuse me that much. I still didn't get all of it. But, like, reading as an adult, you know what's happening. And then by that time, you're just like, yeah, I know what's happening. Man, I feel sorry for her. She was not told anything. Like, there's one point in time where AWA, I think, it's in chapter 2, so she's about 9 years old. She says something like, I know everything. My mom already told me how babies are made. And obviously she's saying it as, like, a precocious child. You're gonna be like, haha, no, she doesn't know everything, whatever. But, like, reading the story, you're like, oh, yeah, she really doesn't learn very much more than that. Maybe she did know everything that she was ever gonna know at that point. Whoops. So, yeah, pity for her that her sex ed sucked.
You don't even think... I mean, I agree with everything you just said.
Yeah.
But you don't think that even, like, having this around to, like, normalize the idea of sexuality, human sexuality, as, like, a thing that everyone goes through, you don't think that's useful?
Yeah. I think that would be useful. I think, like, this, like would be useful as, like, auxiliary reading for someone. Not don't let this be the first thing your kid reads about learning about puberty.
Fair enough. Yeah.
That'll fuck them up. They'll be like, yes, better get married when I'm 17.
When I'm 17.
Yeah, and it's like, no, here, have the I'm going through puberty book instead. So, like, yeah, and that also goes into the point that, like, obviously, like, obviously in the past they didn't have the best sex ed, and it always pisses me off whenever I see media about it. I mean, recently I watched Bridgerton because I'm a million years too late to that, and watching that have you ever seen Bridgerton?
No, my mom watches that show.
Yeah, my parents watch it. My mom was like, you should watch it too, and I was like, okay, I'll go watch Bridgerton. I like pretty dresses, you know. I literally was pulling my hair out because I'm like, what? You just let your girls go off, get married, and you didn't even tell them what masturbation was? They didn't know what sex was? Which is something annoying about this. There's, like, one point in time where, like, it's like, Awa goes off and gets married. It's, yeah. Chapter 29, Awa literally just got married, and her mom is like, but my Awa is a naive girl who doesn't know anything. Ma'am, that's your fault. You knew she was going to get married. You could have taught her anything. It's like,
But is that not... That's like... I don't necessarily if that's true in the narrative. Let's just, like... That shows Awa's mother as a character, as, like, an authentic mother where... What's that saying? Where, like, you hope that your children are prepared for the worst, but you don't want to have to teach them that. You know that kind of philosophy where, like... Yeah. You don't want to put your kids through hell, but you want them to be able to tough enough to, like, take it. I feel like that's more like a character thing. I don't necessarily think that that's, like, actually true. That's just a worry that mothers have, right? Like,
yeah. But I'm still not convinced that by the time Awa has sex for the first time, she knows what that is.
Right.
So it's like, yeah. I mean,
okay.
She knows, like, some things, but, like, she knows some things.
Again, knowing let's compare and contrast this to, say, a girl in America at a similar time, similar time,
yeah,
and a similar age. Would they know more than Awa about how sex works, right? Like,
no.
probably not, right? So, like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, of course, like, she got better sex education than some people at that point in time, but it doesn't absolve it from being shitty sex ed.
No, I
Which
guess.
is easy to say, like, in hindsight of being, like, I don't know, maybe, like, a century later, being, like,
someone who went to school, right? Like, that's the other thing.
Yeah, like, I really don't know how it is these days, but we got sex ed started in grade 4. And you, like, learned what anatomy was, and you learned that, I just remember you specifically learning, you gotta get 8 hours of sleep at least, because that's how you be healthy, and I was, like, sick. I'm making that my personality now. So, like, it was very useful, obviously very different than how it was in the past. As we talk about this, do we want to talk about, the last chapter, in which, Awa consummates her marriage, and then also every other character also has sex at the same time?
Because here comes my biggest problem with it when I was reading it.
Thank you. Okay, yes.
So we see 3 different couples have intercourse, right? Like have sex. First one is Awa's mother and the picture man, where it's an old lover returning, right? And we don't get a big glimpse of it because we've already kind of seen how their relationship works.
Yeah, we know they fuck.
Yeah. Awa and her husband in the first time, supposedly the first time that they have sex together ever, right? And it's drawn with all these, like, beautiful metaphorical panels and all these kind of psychedelic imagery. It's very pretty looking. And then the last one it's just this random, it's one of the tavern, like, regulars, right?
Yeah.
And his wife. And, like, the whole time they're just complaining, and they're, like, they're, like, comparing the activity to, like, chores and stuff.
So, like, farming? Yeah.
Yeah, that whole sequence is like, okay, enough of it. Like, I get what he's going for. Like,
okay, do you? Because I cannot for the life of me wrap my head around why that part was included.
There is a type of guy who hates his wife. Have you ever encountered this? You seen this? Heard about this?
Boomers be like, oh, my wife, right? Oh,
right.
What a nag. Yeah.
And however, they still have sexual needs. Both women and men have sexual needs well into their old age, right? So to fulfill those sexual needs, they will have an arrangement where they, schedule sex or whatever. Usually it's just whenever the man needs to, right? Like, and it's like gross. And that's what he's showing. He's showing the different kinds of lovemaking in a marriage, in a relationship. The problem, of course, being, I don't want to see this. This really sucks. This is really stupid. If you don't like the person that you're having sex with, don't have sex with them anymore. Like,
yeah. And all I can think of this chapter is, hey, it's getting home my point. If you're young looking and pretty, you're going to have banging sex. If you're old and unhappy and ugly, sucks to be you. Your sex is awful.
Yes.
And I'm like, cool, thanks. Yeah. So, talking about this chapter, one of the fun things about this book, like you mentioned, at the end of the books, there's, like, reading group questions. And, like, I want to talk about some of these reading group questions, because some of these reading group questions really give the, yes, this is grade 9 English class kind of vibe. Some of them are just really funny and very of the time, and some of them are, like, kind of actually interesting. One I want to talk about here, which is relevant to this chapter, is, quote, the consummation of Awa and Duxom's marriage is depicted in highly symbolic terms. Many of the symbols used, flowers, water, bells, etc., are common in manhwa, and used to avoid direct depictions of explicit sexuality. What effect does the extremely representational art have on the scene? Would your reaction to a more literal interpretation have been different? What do you think about the symbolicness of it?
First off, what do they mean? What a more realistic? You mean you just want to see straight penetration? Like, what? Huh? That doesn't fit with the book. Like, the book is kind of leading to this moment, but it's doing it through metaphor, through mimesis. So like it makes sense that you would describe it, you would show it visually through visual mimesis. And I think it works. Like, I didn't get horny reading this book, let's be clear.
Which is not the point,
Not the point. But like, it is like a visually stimulating, it is a very enjoyable looking page. That's like, it feels authentic to like how having sex with somebody you loves feels like, right? Like, that's the point.
This shit's so goofy is what I think.
You don't like it? You don't like it?
I'm looking at the 2-page spread of Awa and her husband having sex, and there's just a bunch of gongs getting hit. It's so funny, man.
I do say, when it's the, what's that tool that you like?
Oh, the pestle and mortar.
Yeah,
and
that was a little heavy-handed, I have to say.
So
that's
funny.
like something out of Naked Gun. But everything else.
So funny. But like, you have these, you have this 2-page spread, and they are realistically drawn gongs with just like a white lightsaber of a baton hitting them, where this baton is hitting a specific little flower emblem on the gong. And it's like, yeah, I know what's happening, but this looks so goofy. It's so silly. Some of the metaphorical imagery works better than others, I guess. Like there's some like waves and waves and like clouds. That's pretty. I'm sorry, but like the image of Duxam running across like a landscape and then seeing like a spring on the other side of some like greenery, and then he just jumps in. And you're like, yes, I know exactly what's happening. I can't take a single part of it seriously. It's so funny.
See, that, to me, that's the best. Like, that's like, oh, I get it. Like, that kind of clicks into me. Like, oh.
Yeah, I get it, but it's dumb. I don't think it should have been, like, super realistic and explicit, because A, that would probably really would have gotten this book banned. B, would not be in a YA genre anymore. And yeah, it wouldn't fit the genre. But like, what I think they could have just done is like, there were previously scenes where Awa's mom and the picture man, it's implied that they were having sex. And it's very non-graphic. They're covered by like blankets and stuff. You only ever see a little bit of titty. If they would have just done that, I think it would be good. I don't think we needed all the goofy ass imagery. That's my personal opinion. But, like, the juxtaposition between, like, the flowery imagery and then, like, the old couple failing to have any type of actual sex, you're just like, what it gives to me is what is coming across is that the realistic depiction of sex is not enjoyable, but the romanticized metaphor of two bodies becoming one, consummating a marriage, is the thing that is pleasurable. And I don't think, obviously not the point, but the message it's given to me is, in real life, especially when you get older, damn, that shit's ass, too bad.
Sex sucks,
but
yeah,
like,
sex is bad when you're old.
But the idea of it when you're young and hot, yeah, that's great. Like, the concept of it, and what it could be metaphorically, yeah. So it's not really coming across as very sex positive to me.
See, again, should have just cut the old people, and I get that, like, I get what he's trying to get at. Yeah. It's problematic and stupid.
You didn't need it, yeah.
You didn't need it.
No, not at all. But, like, good for them. The young lovers who have never had sexual intercourse do a bang-up job of it first time. Good for them. Yeah,
first time, it's great, and it totally works out, and she's probably pregnant. Like,
no preparation. Hey, according to the previous chapter, she's guaranteed to have a son. Awesome, good for her, because why would you want a daughter? Let's be real. Good for them. They had magic, beautiful first-time sex that was perfect, with no preparation, and there was no pain, only pleasure. Both had a great time. This should, like I said, this should not be the only resource someone should have for what puberty and stuff is.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. So yeah, anyway, so that happens, and then like 3 pages later, the series ends. What I think is interesting, and kind of weird, and I don't think it was done on purpose, but I'm out here to overanalyze things. The story starts when Ava makes the first discovery about sexuality or puberty or whatever. And the series ends when she gets married. What it comes across to me is that we are telling the story of a woman. It begins when she becomes aware of her own sexuality, and it ends when she becomes married and unavailable to other men. And I don't think that was done on purpose, but it's interesting that that's how it is. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely not what the author intends. Like,
No.
The author obviously is, like, intending it to be the journey from adolescence to maturity, right? Like, that's the point, with an interlude of a woman rediscovering her sexuality, like returning to youngness, also returning to youth. When you put it in our blunt terms and analysis, I could see where that comes from, though.
Yeah. With a lot of things, I think that if you just read this series and you read it on face value as a nice little romance story / nice little story about a mom and daughter vibing, it's great, it's cute, it's quaint, it looks nice. If you read into it just a little bit, you start being like, oh, I want to ask you about your decisions with this story, sir.
It's kind of, I had this thought, and I'm glad I remembered it. It's kind of like Korean Gilmore Girls. How do we feel about that?
Please explain.
It's about a relationship between a mother and a daughter, and how they bring out the maturity and youth in each other and their relationships. I don't know. Yeah, pretty much that. The only difference
Gilmore
is
Girls from?
When was Gilmore Girls was set contemporaneously in like the late 90s, early to mid 2000s.
When was it made?
I mean, there was a Netflix series in 2015 that was like a sequel, I'm pretty sure. Or not 2016.
I was going to be like, damn, can't believe Gilmore Girls copied the plot idea of the Colors trilogy. Cringe.
2000 through 2007.
Okay, this wouldn't have... White English people wouldn't have read this series yet, so no, they couldn't possibly have copied it.
I don't think so.
Yeah. No. It's really funny, though. I would have never made that connection, but it's very funny. I have another one or two of these reading group questions that I want to talk about, because I think they're kind of interesting. We have one question here. Quote, the pictographer, who Ava calls the picture man, discusses how there are some things that his art cannot adequately represent. For example, the depth of his emotions for Ava's mother. Do you think this is a universal statement, that art cannot contain the emotions of real life? Do you think there are places specifically in this trilogy where the art cannot accurately represent the emotions evoked by the story? So I want to focus on this as comic artists, and I think this is kind of an interesting question. Do you think that art cannot contain the emotions of real life?
No, I think, of course, art can contain the emotions of real life. In fact, I won't say very soon, but soon we will talk about a work that is all about that.
Cool. Can't wait. Yeah. I know, I read that one and I'm like, okay, person who came up with these reading group questions, tell me you're not an artist without telling me you're not an artist.
Like, what do you mean by that?
That's such a weird statement, especially when you're talking about, I get it, it's talking about specifically in the story what's happening, but I think it's very funny to say that when you're reading a story that is visual art.
Also, what do you mean by art? Like, music is also art. Does that not also properly contain emotionality? Like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, because I'll tell you, even as a visual artist, the type of art that makes me feel the most emotion, even more so than real life probably, is music. Like, God, I wish I could make music, because that shit is so, just hits so hard with emotions sometimes that it's, overwhelming. It's great. So, very, very funny, specifically, what do you mean by art? Tell me more what you think. I think this is definitely written by someone who, thinks that art means, pictures, probably missing the part that written prose and, novels themselves are also art. And, a lot of those are, biographical, so they really do show the emotions of life.
Right. Or even, film and video. Editing is, one of the most one of the greatest innovations in showing emotionality, showing the feeling of a time, right? Like showing the timing of a feeling. Like that is also art.
Yeah. And even as someone who like really doesn't like poetry, that is like, poetry is literally about depicting like strong emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
that's like the whole point.
Yeah. So like just like I get in the story when the picture man says, like, obviously it's so romantic. He's like, yes, I can draw anything. If I'm feeling warm, I'll just like draw a waterfall and it'll refresh me. But the thing I cannot capture in my art is the beauty of the woman I love. Yes, very romantic, very, very, very sweet, very fun. The fact that the person who made these questions took that as, all right, let's see, can art effectively show real life? It's like, yeah, it can. The only reason it couldn't in this example is because bro is being like romantic as hell.
Yeah, he's doing a bit. Numbnuts.
Yeah, he's doing a bit. And it's very romantic. No wonder the mom likes him. He's a very romantic man. That's really cute. And he was just saying this to some random dude. That's good for him. He loves his women. He loves his woman. Very good for him. So that was the funniest question that I found in there. I was like, that. Okay, actually, no, there's one that's also funny here. Also about comics. I think this one really speaks for the time it was from. This is at the end of the second book. The Color of Water is an example of manhwa, a Korean version of a graphic novel. How does the medium affect the way HWA'S story is told? Are there things the author did using this form that he wouldn't have been able to do in prose? Are there things he couldn't do? Consider especially metaphor, narrative voice, a sense of place, symbolism, and whether these literary tropes can expand to a visual dimension.
I mean,
I was reading this and I was like, yeah, I think this is meant for people who haven't read a comic before.
Right. Like, on the most obvious level, it's like, well, there's pictures, so
yeah,
that's different
so you can
than
show
a book.
what things, yeah,
but like,
show what things look like.
Obviously, they're also trying to like get at like how panel transitions work, how page flips work, like the different the switching between styles of realistic, overhatched backgrounds and landscapes to the cartoonier figures, right? Like even something like word balloon placement, which admittedly not that noteworthy in this work, but like could be in another example.
Yeah. I just think it's really interesting because like this book came to North America in 2009, which is at this point quite a while ago. You were alive in 2009. How were comics viewed by the general population?
Watchmen, the film was coming out, so that trade paperback was a bestseller once again. What else? We were probably on the cusp of young reader graphic novels hitting the scene. Like Bone was being solicited in Scholastic book fairs, and
yeah, I'm sure Bone existed.
Yeah, sorry, Bone had existed in the 90s, but it was being colored and collected for kids specifically.
Yeah. And yeah, I remember seeing it in the Scholastic flyers.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know. What else would have been coming out around that time?
Fun fact, on the list of most attempted to be banned books, Bone was also on there at one point.
That sucks so bad.
And one of the reasons it cited was racism. And I'm like... so funny.
Okay.
I think it meant like it depicted like different characters being racist to other characters, not like it had racism in it.
Right.
But it, like, depicted that racism exists. Yeah, and I was like, I don't think teaching people that racism exists and it's a bad thing is something you should ban a book for.
Yeah. Classic US.
Classic America being like, what? It promotes that different people are equal to each other? No, we must get rid of this. Yeah. But I'm like, I think the way that it's this book is portrayed in its physical form, it has a description at one point where it's explaining parts of the visual medium. It's explaining what panels are. It's explaining what word balloons are and how to read them. And it's saying that it's got the little tails that tell you which person is talking.
Right.
This book obviously came to the English-speaking audience as like a gateway into reading either just comic books in general or Eastern comics.
Yes.
I think the fact that one of the reasons for that is because this book is read left to right. which for English-speaking people makes it a lot more accessible than if you're reading it quote-unquote backwards.
Right. Was this flopped? Was it
No.
Was it
No, that's how it is.
rearranged?
Yeah, if you remember when we read Lookism was also read left to right.
Right.
So that makes it a lot more accessible for people who have never picked up a manga before. It's got these questions at the back that are like prompting the people who read it to like talk about like how the visual medium works at telling a story, as if potentially the people who read this has never read a comic book before. When I was going through all the Goodreads review of this, a lot of people being like, I've never read any manhwa before, or I usually don't review comics, but this one came highly regarded, so I read it. And there being people being like, not sure if I really understand how the visual part of it works. Yeah, it's pretty, but I don't get it. How do you think this series works as like a gateway book to people for reading comics, or specifically Eastern comics?
Furthering your claim that this is for young readers, the publisher in the West is First Second, which is a subsidiary of Macmillan, and they only do kids and youth books, but specifically graphic novels. So that is a big indicator of like what the market is for this book. I don't know if my dad tells a story of when he was in school to be a teacher, they learned about demographics and like how to get kids interested in certain materials. And one of the big things was like a boy is more likely to read a story with a boy in it than he is to read a story with a girl in it. But girls will read anything. And like, make of that what you will. I'm not saying causation means correlation.
Yeah. I think that was probably just saying, this is what we've noticed.
Right.
So if you can get a book that has a boy main character, as a girl, I will attest, I will read anything.
Right.
You know that by what the shit I've brought to this.
Yes. So like, that's another indicator, right? This is a story about young women, so it's probably for young women. Again, the coming of age thing, like schools try and teach coming of age narratives because they think that kids will latch on to or be able to empathize with other young characters. I've always disagreed with this. As a kid, it annoyed the hell out of me that we were only reading about kids and teenagers in school. It's like, brother, I'm gonna be like, I know what an adult is. I'm not a moron.
Yeah. The thing that always bothered me was like, there's a story about like a 12-year-old and they're doing shit that a 12-year-old would never do. I'm like, no 12-year-old is actually having this interesting a life, and no, they're not going off and being an adventurer or something. Right. That's unrealistic.
Yeah.
I have no problem reading a story about an 18-year-old doing the same thing. I can still figure out what's happening.
Yeah.
Like, it's fine. Yeah. I have noticed, though, that, like, as you get older, you write stories with older characters. I don't know if that's just personally, because I don't write middle-aged stories. I don't give a shit about middle-aged stories. Middle grade comics. I don't care. I don't like them. I don't want to read them. I don't think they look nice. I don't want to write them. But that's just a personal opinion. You should bring a middle grade book to this series one time, and I'll just be upset for an hour and a half. Or maybe I will, just to make myself angry. But like, I've found that as I've been writing comics for years now, and as I go, I keep accidentally making older and older characters. I think that's just
interesting.
Part of growing up. Do you find that?
No, I'm like perpetually writing characters in their 20s, which is like, that's also like a problem. Like, I recognize that's a problem with my writing. I don't know. The thing I'm working on right now is maybe a little different, but like. Yeah.
But like, also, it's like, it's fair because like people in their 20s are like, I don't know, the most physically able,
yes,
I guess.
It's where you're your most active. Yeah.
They're like physically the strongest. You'd say when they're the prettiest or whatever. So like whatever.
You're transitioning from education to career. Like, yeah, I get that.
Yeah. So like that makes sense. As a kid, I was like, I don't know, maybe part of it was like I was upset that the 12-year-olds in the books were having interesting lives, and I'm like, I'm going to school. What do you mean they're doing cool shit? I have to go to school.
Yeah. But I'm never gonna get abandoned in the woods. How many? I've read so many freaking books in my elementary school, middle school, where it was like a kid goes into the woods and they have to like survive in the woods. And it's like, this doesn't happen. Like, what are we doing here?
I'm just thinking about all the series I read where, like, a kid goes to school and has magic powers and has friends that also have magic powers, and I'm like, when am I getting my magic powers?
Yeah, when does that happen?
That's not fair. And I guess then you have books like this where it's like, oh, when am I gonna get my period? Ooh! I don't know. Okay, so, like, obviously I didn't read this at school or anything, but I did read it while it was the demographic that it was supposed to be, I guess. And I will say, even when I read it, like, my sister and I read it, we were aware that there is sexual content in this, and for that reason, we're gonna hide it from parents. They're not gonna open it and see what we're reading. So I remember, like, we read the first one and then returned it, and got the second one and then returned it, and we got the third one, The Color of Heaven, and we were like, yeah, we're hiding this under the other stack of books, and, like, parents aren't gonna see this at all, and then we're just gonna quietly return it, because we were, like, aware that parents wouldn't want us to be reading, like, quote-unquote sexually explicit stuff, even though it's, like, tame as shit, and yeah. Which is funny, because at the same time, we were reading, like, This What Happened to Your Body During Puberty books. But, like, we were aware that, for some reason, adults wouldn't want people of our age to be reading this.
Was this age kept in a certain section of the library? Like, did the librarian need to see ID or anything like that when you took it out? Or?
Oh, goodness, no. We just found it on a shelf, and we were like, ooh, comic book, nice! We want to read this. And we brought it home and read it, and we're like... And then we read the second one, and we're like, the third one is a hide from parents kind of book. Which isn't the first time, which isn't the only time that happened.
Of course. For
getting books from parents. I remember specifically there was one time we got a novel, and it still pisses me off. We got a novel, and it was like, it was about, I think we probably read it in junior high, and it was about high schoolers, and the main premise of the story, sorry, this is going to be slightly off topic for a little bit, I mean, but kind of relevant. The main character was like a high school student, and most of the plot was about, did he sexually assault a girl when she was drunk and he was drunk? And then it's like his life gets kind of ruined and he almost commits suicide. So, like, slightly heavy stuff for us to be reading as, like, junior high kids. And we got this from the library, and we both read it. And then at one point in time, one of our parents picked it up and, like, flipped through a bit of it. And they were like, what the fuck are you guys reading? And I'm pissed because I was like, I don't know. And my sister was like, I don't know. I didn't read it. I hadn't gotten that far. And my parents believed her. Nice. They were like, oh, we believe you haven't got there. And they look at me and they're like, why did you read this? And I'm like, what do you mean? We both read it. Why you?
Damn.
And anyways, and I was like, I can't believe she done me dirty like that. Anyways, I think I turned out totally fine, even though reading the books at that age, I can tell the difference between real life and a book. Obviously, yeah. I knew that. And obviously, I knew reading the Colors trilogy that this is not realistic.
I can't. Like, when I was a kid, our school library especially had age-gated books where you had to be in middle school in order to read them. Like, you had to be in grade 7 or whatever before you could read. One of them was, like, Sherlock Holmes, which pissed me off as a kid because it was like, what do you mean? This is like classic literature. I want to read this. You're just not going to let me? Like, whatever. But, like, for whatever reason, despite my mom not letting me watch anime as a kid, when I was like, whatever I read was fine. I'll tell a story about Watchmen when we inevitably do our Watchmen episode. But, like, I read that when I was probably too young, but my parents are like, whatever. He's reading. It's fine.
Yeah, they're like, read it. Our child reading words, excellent.
And like they were warned, like they were warned, and they were like, no, he's reading. Like
we're not gonna stop him.
We're not gonna stop him. Like
no. I mean, there was growing up. My sister and I read so much. Literally, parents could not get us to stop reading. So there was never the problem of us not reading enough. We were reading far above grade level. So, like, they could be kind of gatekeepy on the things that we, like, read and stuff. They were also very much, like, we weren't allowed to watch SpongeBob because it was crude. We weren't allowed to watch The Simpsons because it was crude. So those were gatekept, but, like, and, like, we weren't allowed to read, like, books for adults or anything. It was like, here's Harry Potter, enjoy.
Right.
Yeah. But I don't know why are we even talking about this? Yeah, like these book series are for young kids. I kind of wish I would have read it in like the school setting kind of thing. That would have been interesting because then at least I could have figured out what they wanted us to actually get from this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's fair.
As I read it, just like as a child reading this, what I got from it is, this is interesting. I know my parents wouldn't like that. That's funny. They put the shoe on top of the other. They're pretending the shoes are fucking.
Right.
So, like, completely unfazed by the fact that, oh, she got her period, whatever, blah, 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 but haha, shoe on top of shoe. That's funny. Which I think perfectly encapsulates how a lot of, like, young people, like, when they're learning about this stuff.
Yeah,
I just kind of think it's funny. Yeah, like, I remember, in sex ed, I just remember our entire class just thought, like, learning about the anatomy was so funny. We were entirely unfazed by what we were learning. It just became a class joke to say fallopian tube, and everybody would just die because it's a hilarious word. Yeah, so, like...
I made it my mission in sex ed to, like, ask every class, when is my mustache coming in? Like, there's no way for a kid to be able to take any of that seriously. No. Not that it shouldn't be taught.
Yeah. But like, the good thing is like, kids usually don't take this stuff seriously. We think it's funny. We're learning something that's in some way seems taboo. And so, like, the kids are going to want to learn about it. We're going to make jokes about it. But now it means we do all know about this. And that's super important. Because if you don't have that sex education, you get to be like, you just are stuck at that 9-year-old AWA stage where you're like, my mom told me babies come out of a door. I know everything.
And moreover, you can also, not only are you, like, stupid, but you can also be taken advantage of, right? Like, that's why that's why you need to learn sex ed. Yeah,
and even so, you learn important things like get 8 hours of sleep a night. Now you'll grow up healthy. Put on deodorant, you're stinky.
Yes.
Even those parts of it is important.
Don't try and grow a mustache until your 20s.
Yeah. So, like, yeah, in general, like, do you think this book is, like, for, like, we talked about for kids would be a good, like, fine thing to read, I guess. Not the thing you should read as your introduction and all-encompassing education on sex ed. Now, for adults, as, like, this being a gateway comic, what do you think?
I mean, there is, like, there's, like, a nostalgia element to this. I mean, it doesn't recall my childhood necessarily, but I could see people in their, coming into their 30s or 40s and, like, looking back into their youths through the lens of this book and finding that appealing. Mm-hmm. I mean, the art's really good. Like, it looks really nice. It's really easy to read. This was perfect for me before I went to bed. I would read, like, a couple chapters of this and I would like, this is good.
It's like relaxing. It's kind of nice.
Yeah. There's not, like, major conflict. It's not stressful. The characters are all quite simple and understandable. Like, I think there's value to this, even as just, like, light reading.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and it's like you said, it's easy to read. There's, like, some comics and some manga and manhwa where you're confused at what's happening. You mentioned this in the Toriko episode, that you were like, sometimes I don't know what's happening in a panel, and it's like, yeah, it'd be like that sometime. But, like, no, you always know what's happening here. It's easy to follow who's talking when, what person is talking, and then which person is talking. You can follow the flow of the pages quite easily. It's very accessible, I think. Like, the people I know who have, like, read, like, one comic in their life. I know some people who the only comic they've read is Ducks. And, like, they'd totally be able to read this, and I think they would enjoy it, too. So, I honestly think, like formally, like, this is a good introduction. Content-wise, like you said, it's pretty easy reading. If you just take it as face value and you don't read deep into it at all, it's a good little romance, good little mother-daughter thing. If you read, but like I said, if you read into it just a little bit, you start seeing problems.
Of course. Like you said, you can tell it's written by a guy. You can tell
it's written by a guy who is very much, has a romanticized view of women, I would say.
Yeah.
Which, a lot of people have a romanticized view of women. Even a lot of women have romanticized views of women. This would be a very different story if it was told realistically or the women had agency. It'd be a different story. I would like to see that story. I think that would be a dope story. But, like, either way, I still like this. I still like this series. It's nice to read. Like you said, it's a good little before bed reading. It's nice and chill. I am glad that you like this one. I feel bad that I've been bringing stuff and you seem to be like, this shit ass. But you like this one.
Hold on, other than Toriko, when have I done that, though? Toriko...
well, okay, Boys Abyss, that was done on purpose.
Boys Abyss?
Yeah. Like, you were pretty mid on like Saint Young Men. You were pretty mid on
I thought
Family
Saint Young Men was
Combo.
enjoyable.
Yeah.
It was good.
But I'm glad that you enjoyed this one, because, like, I mean, for me, this is a very important comic, even outside of what it is, just for, like, my personal growth as a comic reader / writer. The fact that, like, yes, like I said, this is the first manga / manga adjacent thing I ever read, which is hilarious. What?
Yeah.
I mean, people start reading manga and they start with, like, Dragon Ball Z when they're a kid? Nah. Colors Trilogy.
What an odd gateway. I mean, good for them. Like, I don't know. It's good.
Thank you, Public Library, for having this. So yeah, would you recommend this one?
Yes, I would.
I would too. I don't see a lot of talk about it online. I think it's been kind of forgotten in the cultural zeitgeist. I don't think it would be a problem if more people nowadays read it, either critically or uncritically. I think both ways would be, like, useful. So, yeah, definitely 10 out of 10 would recommend. Maybe there's some people out there who read this a long time ago and will be like, oh, I remember that.
What's that one? Yeah.
Oh, it's that one. It's, yeah, the one with the colors and the girl on the front cover and all the flowers and stuff. Yeah. I don't think we have to say if this is a Dudes Rock series. Obviously not a Dudes Rock. It's the opposite of a Dudes Rock. It's a...
Is there a equivalent of women's rock? I don't know. No, We'd have to discuss this.
The exact opposite of Dudes Rock is women kind of just sit there.
Women are there.
Yeah. Women exist.
Women exist. Yeah. No, I think you hit the nail on the head.
This genre. Women exist. Are the two genders, Dudes Rock and Women Exist. But yeah, anyways, go out and read the Colors Trilogy. It's good. It's good reading. It's pretty quick because it's only 30 chapters. Yeah, you can bang it out pretty quick. No pun intended, sorry. Oh, last question for you though.
Okay.
Do you think you would be able to write a story about a girl going through puberty?
I have no interest in writing stories about anyone going through puberty.
Was it a traumatic time in your life? No reason to revisit it?
Yeah, I'm not equipped for that.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't almost... I mean, like, I've written stories about people growing up, which vaguely have parts about going through puberty, but it's never the main focus. It exists. It's part of life. I don't really want to, because then again, I don't really have any desire to write middle grade books. And I feel like if you're writing a book targeted at adults that is specifically about a child going through puberty, it's kind of weird.
Is it? I don't know. I've heard that argument before. Like, someone's got to write about it, and like,
yeah.
Sorry, kids can't write. Kids don't know how to fucking write. So
kids
like,
don't know how to write. Yeah, they're not good. They're not good at writing. But like, I think it's important to write stories for young people about young people going through young people things. I think that's important.
Yeah.
I have no desire to do that. I would never do it. Could I do it? Could I write a pretty good story about a young girl going through puberty? Yeah, of course I can. I know what it's like. I know how it sucks. I have lots of experience with that.
Yeah.
It would be more useful than this is. Do I want to? No. I want to draw comics about beefy people punching each other. So yeah, it just depends on the person, I guess. Thanks for listening. You can find me, Diane, on Instagram at @1_little_gremlin.
And you can find me, Jack Stewartson, at Phantom Power Press on Bluesky, spelt with an F.
If you'd like to follow the show, you could do so on Bluesky and Pink Leap at panelpalspodcast.bsky.social. All of our links are in the show notes. If you like the show, please rate and review on your podcast provider of choice. Panel Pals is Jack Stewardson, Diane Hitchings co-production with editing by Jack Stewardson. Our musical theme is found by Stemchamps.